Shalom, Nakem, Kal Yisrael. How's your peace, Israel? Welcome back to another video. We are, as the topic shows, we are looking at Abraham's test of faith. Okay, and we're going to pick right up where Abraham's story slightly begins. And we're in the book of Barashayath, or the Genesis. And it's chapter 22, and it reads on this wise. It says, sometime afterwards, God put Abraham to the test. He said to him, Abraham, and he answered, Here I am. And he said, Take your son, your favored one, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the heights that I point out to you. So early next morning, Abraham saddled his donkey, and took with him two of his servants and his son Isaac. He split the wood for the burnt offering, and he set out for the place of which God had told him. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his servants, You stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go up there and will worship, and will return to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and put it on his son Isaac. He himself took the fire stone and the knife, and the two walked off together. Then Isaac said to his father Abraham, Father, and he said, Yes, my son. And he said, Here are the firestone and the wood, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will see the sheep for his burnt offering, my son. And the two of them walked on together. They arrived at the place of which God had told him. Abraham built an altar there. He laid out the wood. He bound his son Isaac. He laid him on the altar on top of the wood, and Abraham picked up the knife to slay his son. Then an angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, Here I am. And he said, Do not raise your hand against the boy, or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your favored one, from me. When Abraham looked up, his eyes fell upon the ram, caught on the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering in a place of his son. And Abraham named that site Adonai Yireh, Adonai Yireh, whence the presence saying, On the mount of the Lord there is a vision. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, By myself, I swear, the Lord declares, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your favored one, I will bestow my blessing upon you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven and the sands of the seashore, and your descendants shall seize the gates of their foes. All the nations of the earth shall be blessed, shall bless themselves by your descendants, because you have obeyed my command. Abraham then returned to his servants, and they departed together for Beer Sheba, and Abraham stayed in Beer Sheba. Sometime later, Abraham was told, Milcah, too, has borne children to your brother Nahor, Uz, the firstborn, and Boaz, his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Amram, and Chesed, Hazor, Pildash, Yidlaf, and Bethuel. Bethuel being the father of Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore children. Teba, Gahama, Tasha, and Maacah. I think that is it. I think I read, actually. I was supposed to go to 19. But no worries about that. Okay, so we just came out of the Barashayaf. It was really from chapter 1 to chapter 19. And we're gonna go into the book of Yasha, chapter 23. Okay. Okay, verse 1, and it reads on this wise. At that time the word of the Lord came to Abram, and he said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said to him, Take now thy son, thy only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which shall be shown to thee. For there wilt thou see a cloud and the glory of the Lord. And Abram said with himself, How shall I separate my son Isaac from Sarah, his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarai his wife, and he spoke to her these words, Her son, my son Isaac is growing up, and he has not for some time studied the service of his God. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem and Eber his son, and there he will learn the ways of the Lord, for they will teach him to know the Lord, as well as to know that which he prayeth continually before the Lord. He will answer him, therefore there he will know the way of serving the Lord. Now, just a quick one, because I've spoken to people about the whole concept of Hebrews, the Hebrews. You can see that he was going to bring him to Shem and Eber. So Eber was a significant role in regards to the establishment of the Hebrews, because Eber in the Hebrew is in English is what they called Hebrew. The Ibri or Ibri, the people of Eber is Hebrew. That's what they translated the Ibri, the people of Eber, to Hebrew. So Eber is obviously a very important figure here, as he was dwelling with Shem, right? Therefore, there he will know the way of serving the Lord his God. And Sarah said, Thou hast spoken well. Go, my Lord, and do unto him as thou hast said. But remove him not at a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, for my soul is bound within his soul. And Abraham said unto Sarah, my daughter, let us pray to the Lord our God, that he may do good with us. And Sarah took her son Isaac, and he abode at that night with her. And she kissed and embraced him, and gave him instruction till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from thee? And she still kissed him and embraced him, and she gave Abraham instructions concerning him. And Sarah said to Abraham, O my Lord, I pray thee, take heed of thy son, and place thee eyes over him, for I have no other son nor daughter but him. Oh, forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread. If he be thirsty, give him water to drink. Do not let him go on foot, neither let him sit in the sun. Neither let him go by himself in the road, neither force him from whatever he may desire, but do unto him as he may say to thee. And Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on account of Isaac, and she gave him instructions till morning. And in the morning Sarah selected a very fine and beautiful garment from those garments which she had in the house that Abimelech had given to her. And she dressed Isaac her son therewith, and she put a turban upon his head, and she enclosed a precious stone in the top of the turban, and she gave them provision for the road, that they went forth. And Isaac went with his father Abraham, and some of their servants accompanied them to see them off the road. And Sarah went out with them, and she accompanied them upon the road to see them off. And they said to her, Return to the tent. And when Sarah heard the words of her son Isaac, she wept bitterly, and Abraham, her husband, wept with her, and their son wept with them a great weeping. Also those who went with them wept greatly. And Sarah caught hold of her son Isaac, and she held him in her arms, and she embraced him, and continued to weep with him. And Sarah said, Who knoweth if after this day I shall ever see thee again? And they still wept together. Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac, and all those who accompanied them on the road, wept with them. And Sarah afterwards turned away from her son, and weeping bitterly, and all her men, servants, and maidservants returned with her to the tent. And Abraham went with Isaac his son to bring him up as an offering before the Lord, as he had commanded him. And Abraham took of his young men with him Ishmael the son of Hagar, and Eleazar his servant, and they went together with them. And whilst they were walking in the road, the young men spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eleazar, Now my father Abraham is going with Isaac to bring him up for a burnt offering to the Lord, as he commanded him. Now when he returneth, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. And Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, Surely Abraham did cast thee away with thy mother, and swear that thou shouldest not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has, with all his treasures? But unto me his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who have served him that night and day, and has done all that he desired me. To me will he bequeath at his death and all that he possesses. And whilst Abraham was proceeding with his son Isaac along the road, so Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humbled and contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham and said to him, Art thou silly or brutish that thou goest to do this thing this day to thy only son? For God gave thee a son in thy latter days, in thy old age. Wilt thou go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And wilt thou cause the soul of thy only son to perish from the earth? This is deep. Dost thou not know and understand that this thing cannot be from the Lord? For the Lord cannot do unto man such evil upon earth to say to him, Go slaughter thy child. And Abraham heard this and knew that it was the word of Satan who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of the Lord. But Abraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan, and Abraham rebuked him so that he went away. And Satan returned and came to Isaac, and he appeared to Isaac in the figure of a young woman, comely and well favored. And he approached Isaac and said to him, Dost thou know and understand that the old silly father bringeth thee to slaughter this day from now? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man. Let not thy precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Isaac heard this and said unto Abraham, Hast thou heard, my father, which this man has spoken? Even thou has he spoken? And Abraham answered his son Isaac and said to him, take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the commands of God. And Abraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them, seeing he could not prevail over them. He hid himself from them, and he went and passed before them in the road, and he transformed himself to a large brook of water in the road. And Abraham and Isaac and his two young men reached that place, and they saw a brook large and powerful as the mighty waters. And they entered the brook and passed through it, and the waters at first reached their legs. And they went deeper in the brook, and the waters reached up to their necks. And they were all terrified on account of the water. And whilst they were going over the brook, Abraham recognized that place, and he knew that there was no water there before. And Abraham said to his son Isaac, I know this place in which there was no brook, no water. Now therefore it is this Satan who does all this to us, to draw us aside this day from the commands of God. And Abraham rebuked him and said unto him, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, be gone from us, for we go by the commands of God. And Satan was terrified at the voice of Abraham, and he went away from them. And the place again became dry land as it was at first. And Abraham went with Isaac towards the place that God had told him. And on the third day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place at a distance which God had told of him. A pillar of fire appeared to him, and he reached from the earth to heaven, a cloud of glory upon the mountain, and the glory of the Lord was seen in the cloud. And Abraham said to Isaac, My son, dost thou see in that mountain which we perceive at the distance that which I see upon it? And Isaac answered and said unto his father, I see, and lo, a pillar of fire and a cloud, and the glory of the Lord is seen upon the cloud. And Abraham knew that his son Isaac was accepted before the Lord for a burnt offering. And Abraham said unto Eliezer and unto Ishmael his son, Do you also see that which we see upon the mountain which is at a distance? And they answered and said, We see nothing more than like the other mountains on the earth. And Abraham knew that they were not accepted before the Lord to go with them. And Abraham said to them, Abide ye here with the donkey, whilst I and Isaac my son will go to yonder mount and worship there before the Lord, and then return to you. And Eliezer and Ishmael remained in that place as Abraham had commanded. And Abraham took wood for a burnt offering and placed it upon his son Isaac. And he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to that place. And when they were going along, Isaac said to his father, Behold, I see here the fire and wood, and where then is the lamb that is to be the burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham answered his son Isaac, saying, The Lord has made a choice of thee, my son, to be a perfect burnt offering instead of the lamb. And Isaac said unto his father, I will do all that the Lord spoke to thee with joy and cheerfulness of heart. And Abraham again said unto Isaac his son, Is there in thy heart any thought of counsel concerning this which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray thee, O my son, conceal it not from me. And Isaac answered his father Abraham and said unto him, O my father, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken to thee. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought of or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter. I say, Blessed is the Lord who has this day chosen me to be a burnt offering before him. And Abraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Isaac, and they went on and came together to the place that the Lord had spoken of. And Abraham approached to build the altar in that place, and Abraham was weeping. And Isaac took stones and mortar until they had finished building the altar. And Abraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Isaac and bound him in order to place him upon the wood which was upon the altar, to slay him from a burnt offering before the Lord. And Isaac said to his father, Bind me securely, and then place me upon the altar, lest I should turn and move. Break loose from the force of the knife upon the flesh, and thereof profane the burnt offering. And Abram did so. And Isaac still said to his father, O my father, when thou shalt have slain me and burn me for an offering, take with thee that which shall remain my ashes to bring to Sarah my mother, and say to her, This is the sweet smelling savour of Isaac, but do not tell her of this thing if she should sit near a well or upon any high place, lest she should cast her soul after me and die. And Abraham heard the words of Isaac, and he lifted up his voice and wept when Isaac spake these words. And Abraham's tears gushed upon Isaac his son, and Isaac wept bitterly. And he said to his father, Hasten thou, O my father, and do with me the will of the Lord our God, as he has commanded thee. And the hearts of Abraham and Isaac rejoiced at this thing which the Lord had commanded them, but the eye wept bitterly, whilst the heart rejoiced. I feel like to read more. It says stop at 64, but we're going to continue. It says, And Abraham bound his son Isaac and placed him on an altar upon the wood, and Isaac stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and to take the knife to slay his son as a burnt offering before the Lord. At that time the angels of mercy came before the Lord and spake to him concerning Isaac, saying, O Lord, thou art a merciful and compassionate king over all that thou hast created in heaven and the earth. Thou supportest them all. Give therefore ransom and redemption instead of thy servant Isaac, and pity, and have compassion upon Abraham and Isaac his son, who are this day performing thy commands. Hast thou seen, O Lord, how Isaac the son of Abraham thy servant is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore let the pity be roused for them, O Lord. At that time the Lord appeared unto Abram and called him from heaven and said unto him, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God in performing this act, and in not withholding thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abram lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in the thicket by his thorns. And that was the ram which the Lord God had created in the earth in the day that he made the earth and the heavens. Do you see that? It says, And Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in the thicket by his horns. That was the ram that the Lord God had created in the earth in the day that he made the heavens and the earth. Right. I don't want to go into that too much, but there was a gem there. There's a gem there. All right. Let's go into the book of Siddha Pikapha. Okay. And we're reading out the book of Jubilees. And we're in chapter 17. All right. We're in chapter 17. We're going to pick up in verse 15, and it reads on this wise. It says, "And it came to pass in the 7th week, in the first year thereof, in the first month in this Jubilee, on the 12th of this month, there were voices in heaven regarding Abraham, that he was faithful in all that he told him, and that he loved the Lord, and that in every affliction he was faithful. And the prince Mestema came and said before God, Behold, Abraham loves Isaac his son, and he delights in him above all things else. Bid him offer him as a burnt offering on the altar, and thou will see if he will do this command, and thou will know if he is a faithful in everything wherein thou dost try him. And the Lord knew that Abraham was faithful in all his affliction, for he had tried him through his country and with famine, and had tried him with the wealth of kings, and had tried him again through his wife when she was torn from him, and with circumcision, and had tried him through Ishmael and Hagar, his maidservant, when he sent them away. And in he had tried him, he was found faithful, and his soul was patient, and he was not slow to act, for he was faithful and a lover of the Lord." This is quite interesting because as you read in this is actually very powerful. This is very powerful. This verse 18, because this actually is showing you how the Father communicates with his elect. He actually shows you that you're his through the trials that he puts you through. As long as you have the insight to perceive that what you're going through is trials, because there's a difference between trials of your own disobedience. When I say disobedience, mean that you're doing wickedness, you're causing, but then there are trials when you know you're doing good, you're walking in the Father's righteousness, you're observing these things that he wants you to observe, you're giving to the poor, you're doing all these things that he wants you to do, yet you go through some sort of trial and tribulation here and or there, right? That this is the Father showing you that when you are still walking in his righteousness and you're still going through these trials and tribulations here and there, right? This is he's pruning you for greater things. And there's always you're always going to be going up the levels. But as you go up the levels, you have to be tried so that he knows if you could go, because you see, like, this is like a chess game here. You see, the pawns, you allow the pawns to go to so far, but some of the pawns can't make it. You see what I'm saying? Because they're small fish. The others that got better moves, they will kill the pawns real quickly. You see what I'm saying? You don't just all of a sudden start using your best pieces. You don't just get them all to start coming out, do you? You use the pawns first. They go out and they start trying to, do the work. But the good pieces, you make sure that you reserve them. You see, you make sure that the next move is a good move that is not going to destroy the piece. Because if you destroy the piece, that changes the game. As soon as the bishops are out of the game, you haven't got those diagonal moves going on there. Then you've got the knights and the castles and stuff like that. Castle going up and across and stuff like that. If you lose those pieces too quickly, the game will end quick. That's like the Father with his prophets and his servants. He has to make sure that when he's looking and he's about to make a move, he needs to make sure that the piece is ready for that, or the piece is in a conducive position to remain unaffected by what other pieces are around him. Because as soon as he moves the bishop in this position, our other pieces going to come and be able to destroy him. We've got to see it as like that, as the servants and the prophets of the Lord. You see, the elect, is that when he puts us in position, he has to assess to ensure that the piece that he's about to move into that position is ready for that position, can fulfill that position, and not nothing can come and try to take him out of that position. You see what I'm saying? But the only way that you can learn is through trials. So that's where you get put into certain positions that are not so deep into the lion's den. Just a little bit up the board, just a little bit forward. But when it starts getting to the point where you want to start making checkmate, only the most righteous pieces are going to make it somewhere close to that queen or king, let's just say the king. I mean, you see. So it's important to see that these things that we read, we're precepting, but these things are useful for one's day-to-day life. Yeah, especially those that want to walk in the Father's righteousness. Let's continue. We're going to continue to chapter 18. It says, and God said to him, Abraham, Abraham, and he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take thy beloved son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go into the high country, and offer him on one of the mountains which I will point out unto thee. And he rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took two young men with him, and Isaac his son. So this is interesting because it says that he took two young men with him, and we read in the book of Yashua who those two young men were. It was Ishmael and Eliezer, right? This is why we come in the full volume of the book because we're precepting, so we can get the full context of the story. You know, those who pigeonhole themselves and sit with just what is given, then don't expect to understand much. You understand? He took two young men with him, and Isaac and his son, and clave the wood of the burnt offering. And he went to the place on the third day, and he saw the place afar off. And he came to a well of water, and he said to his young men, abide ye here with the donkey, and I and the lad shall go yonder. And when we have worshipped, we shall come again to you. See that shows a lot of faith that Abraham had, because he even said that we shall come again to you, saying that Isaac was going to come back, right? And he took the wood and the burnt offering, and he laid it on Isaac his son, and took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they both went of them together to that place. And Isaac said to his father, Father, and he said, here I am, my son. And he said unto him, behold, the fire and the knife and the wood, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering, father? And he said, God will provide for himself a sheep for a burnt offering, my son. And he drew near to the place of the mount of God, and he built an altar, and he placed the wood on the altar, and bound Isaac his son, and placed him on the wood which was upon the altar, and stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay Isaac his son. And I stood before him, and before the place, Mastema, the Lord said, bid him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor to do anything to him, for I have shown that he has feared the Lord. And I called to him from heaven, and said unto him, Abraham, Abraham. And he was terrified, and said, behold, here I am. And I said unto him, lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. For now I have shown that thou, for now I have shown that thou fearest the Lord, and hast not withheld thy son, thy firstborn son, from me. And the prince Mestama was put to shame. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a ram caught by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called that place the Lord has seen, so that it is said in that mount, the Lord has seen, that is Mount Zion. And the Lord called Abraham by his name a second time from heaven. And he caused us to appear to speak to him in the name of the Lord. And he said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord. It's quite interesting because he says that he called that place Mount Zion. But I'm pretty sure that we read that it was Mount Moriah that he went to slay. It's where the Lord appeared. He appeared to him on Mount Zion. Now, if you notice, when you look on the actual narrative, no, I wouldn't say narrative, but actually when you look at the geographical mapping of where Mount Moriah and Mount Zion is, they're actually both right next to each other. So I see it was Mount Moriah where he actually was going to slay his son, but it was Mount Zion where the Lord appeared unto him in a cloud. And if anyone has look at my Facebook, you'll find that my cover photo is actually the pillar of cloud that came upon Mount Zion when the elder was in, you know, in the land. And I think they'll celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, which is actually the last day today. Today is the last day of Feast of Tabernacles. That's when the pillar of cloud came upon Mount Zion. Right, so we're going to go into the book of Sirach. Okay. And we're in chapter 44. And we're going to read from verse 19. It says, Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. I might actually read a bit more. It says, and therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations of his seed, that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, from the river unto the utmost part of the land. With Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham his father's sake, for Abraham's his father's sake, the blessing of all men and the covenant, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing and gave him a heritage and divided his portions among the 12 tribes. Did he part them? Okay. We're now going to go into the Besorah, the New Testament. We're coming up the Syriac Peshitta. Okay. And we're gonna pick up in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11. Okay. Book of Hebrews, chapter 11. And we're going to start from verse 17. And it reads in this words. By faith, Abraham, when he was tempted, made an offering of Isaac, and placed his only child, the very one he had received through the promise, on an altar. For he had been told, your descendants will be counted as coming from Isaac. He also thought to himself that God was capable of actually raising the dead, and this is why, in a sense, his son was returned to him. You see? The book of Hebrews is referring to what happened with Abraham and the fact that he was very much certain that the Father could raise people from the dead. That's why he was willing to, or by faith, he was willing to, commit to the Father's instructions. We're going to segue into the book of James. Okay, and we're in chapter 2. And we're going to start from verse 20, and it reads on this way. It says, do you really want to understand, you pathetic man, that faith is dead when it is not based on actions? Was our father Abraham not made right with God on the basis of his actions on the occasion when he placed his son Isaac onto an altar as a sacrifice? You can see that his faith was a support to his actions. It was because of what he did that his faith became complete. And the verse that says Abraham believed in God and it was reckoned to him as righteousness was fulfilled, and so he was called God's friend. So I'm going to stop there. I only hope the reader and listener will be blessed by this. Again, we are coming in the full volume of the book, everything that pertains to the Father's righteousness. Abraham's testing of faith was something that we could only get a glimpse of, but you can see that it was more of a foreshadow of things to come, i.e., that the ram that he was actually going to sacrifice was actually the same lamb that was created by the foundations of the universe. So I only hope the reader and listen to this word will be blessed by this. So may Yahweh bless you, may Yahweh keep you, may Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you, may Yahweh be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, and may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yahshua. I'm Mashiach's name I pray. Selah.